Everything started from the peaceful protest. Our president as well as our prime minister, they decided to act. We are going to implement decisive reforms. One of the main goals of these reforms is to make our parliament, our local representative bodies more influential. And this platform is similar to the platform which was established in Dubai. We clearly understand our responsibility, and we do understand that due to our geopolitical location, Kazakhstan can and should play its role in terms of developing our regional cooperation.
Hello and welcome to InferTalks, where we put you in the room with some of the biggest thought leaders from around the world. My guest today is a leading diplomat from Central Asia. You've guessed it right. My guest today is Ambassador Yerzhan Kistafin. Ambassador Yerzhan, welcome to InferTalks.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Ambassador Yerzhan, let's start off our conversation with a very serious question. And the question is about a catastrophe that has struck your country, where in the eastern part of your country, a region named Abai, where we've seen a loss of about 14 precious lives and about 60,000 hectares of land has been lost due to forest fires. Let me ask you, how is Kazakhstan at this point in trying to cope with a crisis like this? And when Pakistan is also anticipating climate-related crises, we've seen one last year as a result of monsoon rains, and we've also seen recently loss of lives in KP, and we're also looking ahead to an ongoing cyclone that's likely to make a touchdown. Where do you see some prospect of bilateral collaboration as well? So if you could cover these two aspects for us.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I would like to express my sincere condolences with regard to this tragedy that took place in the KP due to the heavy rains that took place recently, and it led to the loss of precious lives. 27 people passed away, unfortunately. In Kazakhstan we had heavy forest fires, which again led to loss of precious life. 14 people died, unfortunately, due to this challenge, due to this problem. So I think that when it comes to such issues like natural disasters, last year your country faced one of the greatest, I would say, challenges, floods that led to, again, some great tragedies. And again, our deepest condolences. Our government twice arranged the financial assistance to the brotherly people of Pakistan. So I met the chairman of the NDMA, and we discussed all these issues. In fact, in 2014, our relevant authorities, namely the NDMA and the Ministry of Emergency, signed an agreement to establish collaboration between our countries. So I do believe that such kind of challenges like climate change should be and could be addressed only through joint efforts. And the very first step that we should take is to exchange information between our relevant agencies and authorities. And as a second step, we could identify common problems, common issues that we face, and what can be done in terms to address these problems in a more effective way and in a more appropriate way, in order to, I would say, to decrease the negative influence of those problems that we face. And I hope that this year we will be developing this collaboration, since we already have a legal framework for such an interaction. And again, as I said, we have to exchange information, best practices, experience that we have, to make our people, our authorities ready to resist to such kind of challenges that we face today in the world.
Ambassador Yerzhan, now let me take this opportunity and bring back your focus to Kazakhstan again. Last year, early in January, we saw protests break out. Kazakhstan actually experienced a lot of upheaval and unrest within the country. We saw, government responding with a crackdown. There were arrests of different protesters across the country, and we saw a lot of international criticism coming the way of your country. But then Kazakhstan came up with reforms under President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev. What drove this need for reform, and what were some of the markers of the success after having unrolled those reforms, and where do you think that the country has to take steps for further improvement?
You know, in fact, this tragedy that took place in January 2022, you know, everything started from the peaceful protests, and no one was going to use any force against those people who were peacefully protesting, and they were expressing their discontent with the current situation, with the policy conducted by our government, our local authorities. But then some people tried to use this peaceful protest, and in fact it was an attempt to coup d'etat. And in this case, just like, you know, any other government in the world, our our president as well as our prime minister, they decided to act to protect our people, first of all. Then our president said that we are going to implement decisive reforms. One of the main goals of these reforms is to make our parliament, our local representative bodies more influential, to make these bodies kind of key bodies in terms of implementing and promoting our political agenda. The final goal is to make our society, I would say, to liberalize our society, to make our government accountable before our civil society, and to move further our democratization process. So the idea is to finally make our people the most important part in terms of decision-making process nationwide. So I think that we are quite successful in this term. And last year and this year, we held our presidential elections, we held our parliamentary elections, and we introduced some very, I would say, fundamental amendments to the Constitution of the Republic of Kazakhstan. Let me give you just two examples. Upon the initiative of our President Tokayev, we introduced a ban for the close relatives of president to be members of our government or state-owned organizations.
And why is that?
In order to avoid conflict of interests,
Okay.
of course. And I believe that we are the first and the only country in the region who made such a,
In Central Asia.
Yeah. So another very important initiative by our President Tokayev was to introduce a single presidential term. 7-year single presidential term.
So the president
That's
cannot get re-elected
No.
after that single term.
No one can be re-elected.
Okay.
So the idea was to give an impetus to changes in our society.
And would that also mean more decentralization of power to representatives in the parliament
Exactly.
and local
Exactly.
representatives?
So we're moving gradually from a presidential democracy to a parliamentary democracy.
Okay.
To make finally, as I said, the Parliament of Kazakhstan a key body in terms of moving further our internal, agenda, as well as our, foreign policy and other issues, which we are discussing at the national level.
And has there been more focused in terms of giving more powers to judiciary as a form of checks and balances?
Again, for example, we had so-called the Constitutional Council. Recently, this institution was reorganized, and now we have established the Constitutional Court. And any citizen can, go to this court and to apply.
Okay.
So the Constitutional Court, the idea of this Constitutional Court is to protect interests, freedoms, and rights of our citizens.
Okay, now focusing more again on bilateral relations, Ambassador Yerzhan. Focusing on Pakistan itself, we've seen Pakistan come up with a policy of geoeconomics under the national security policy. And ever since we've seen Kazakhstan taking more pronounced interest, and also under your watch, to help connect with the country in terms of regional integration, in terms of connectivity. Could you help us understand what are some of the initiatives Kazakhstan has actually undertaken to connect with Pakistan, and what are some actions that both states could take to facilitate this connection in a more better manner?
So our president met twice last year with your prime minister, His Excellency Mr. Shehbaz Sharif. They discussed our a wide range of issues within the framework of our bilateral agenda, with a very special focus on developing our economic cooperation. Last Saturday, our leaders had a phone conversation. Prime Minister and President Tokayev, they again discussed the current state of play, and again it was stressed that we need to strengthen ties between our countries, again with a very special focus on our bilateral trade. So when it comes to our bilateral cooperation, I would say that we have three main dimensions. Two issues that we need to address. The first one is lack of information. The second one is lack of connectivity. Our peoples, I always say that our peoples, our societies still know little about each other. So we need to fill the gap. And lack of connectivity, this is the issue which is closely interrelated with lack of information. So I'm happy to announce that from 8th of July, we are going to launch direct flights from Lahore to Almaty. So I believe that it will help us in terms of boosting interaction between our business communities, our people-to-people ties, our academia, students, young people, so on and so forth. And it will raise awareness of our people about each other. After all, we are not that far from each other. We are neighbors in the same region. For example, flight time from Lahore to Almaty is 2 hours 10 minutes, almost the same like between, I would say, Islamabad and Karachi. You see, so this is not that far, and we need to address these two very important issues: lack of information and lack of connectivity. As soon as we address these two issues and we will fill the gap, it will help us to boost cooperation. I mentioned that in terms of cooperation between Kazakhstan and Pakistan, we have three dimensions. The first one is our bilateral cooperation, and the second one is regional cooperation. As you know, Kazakhstan is located at the top of Central Asia, while Pakistan is at the bottom and has access to the warm waters. And as you know, Central Asia is the landlocked region, and Kazakhstan is the largest landlocked country in the world. So this is why, for us, cooperation with your beautiful country is extremely important. And when I say that we have a regional dimension, I mean that if we want to connect Kazakhstan and Pakistan, we have to cross at least two countries in the region, be it Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, so on and so forth. So it means that if we manage to develop a well-organized connectivity between our countries, other countries in the region, they can simply enjoy this connectivity. And it will be beneficial not only for our two countries, but for the entire region. And Afghanistan, for example, it was mentioned in your national security strategy in the international chapter that Afghanistan can play a key role in terms of developing cooperation between Pakistan and Central Asia. And engaging Afghanistan into the regional cooperation, it will definitely help us to contribute to strengthening security situation in the region. So, as you might see, economic cooperation is not only about trade, is not only about money, is not only about business, but maybe first of all about our security situation in the region. And the third dimension, which is even maybe more important, it is about connecting continents. It's well known that Kazakhstan, for example, in the top 10 in the world among wheat exporters. And nowadays, for you, it is easier and cheaper to deliver wheat from Ukraine than from Kazakhstan. So where Ukraine is and where Kazakhstan is. Again, because of lack of connectivity, it's not feasible yet to deliver Kazakh wheat to Pakistan. But we're working on this issue, and I'm sure that this year we will find a solution to this problem. And it means that we will be able to deliver our wheat not only to Pakistan, but to other countries from other continents, namely African markets, Southeast Asia. So today we witness negotiations between Turkey, Ukraine and Russia on arranging a safe transport corridor through the Black Sea to deliver grain. If we had a well-established regional connectivity in our area, I think we wouldn't face such a problem. We could easily deliver Kazakh wheat to the least developed countries, which suffer today.
Let me table two more quick questions.
Yeah, please.
One towards the export of wheat from Kazakhstan to Pakistan, and also the question of direct flights. Would direct flights get expanded to other cities also, like Karachi and Islamabad? And also the fact that if you're able to pull off this deal of exporting wheat to Pakistan, what size do you have in mind, or how much would you want to, in the short term, how much would you want to sort of like export that wheat to Pakistan? Like any targets out there set by you or your team?
So with regard to the direct flights, as I said, we are going to launch on the 8th of July flights from Lahore to Almaty. As a next step, we are going to connect our financial capitals, namely Almaty and Karachi. Hopefully it will take place this fall. Then if the passenger traffic is growing, we are going to connect our capitals as well. So we started from most active, business cities, most populated from both sides, and I think that this is the right approach, and definitely we will be developing and diversifying connectivity, air connectivity between our countries. Concerning your second issue with regard to the wheat, last year we had talks between our governments, and your government expressed interest in importing from Kazakhstan up to 2 million tons of wheat. Our side expressed readiness, but again, due to the lack of connectivity, transportation costs were too high. So this is why we decided to address first connectivity issue, and then we can go back to talks on the wheat export from Kazakhstan. And by the way, it is not only about wheat, and it is also about other bulks. For example, coal. We can also export our coal to Pakistan. So what I'm saying is that cooperation between Kazakhstan and Pakistan, it will be and it should be a complementary cooperation. You have what we need, access to the warm waters, for example. And we have what you need, energy resources, wheat. So we can learn from each other. Just 2 weeks ago, I visited Bahawalpur and Multan, and I met with the local business community, with officials, and I see how they are interested in terms of developing cooperation between our countries. We can learn a lot from your experience. So there are so many avenues for developing cooperation between our countries.
Let me table one more question.
Please.
And since we want to promote bilateral trade and the kind of world that we live in, there are also parallel emerging developments. We see this ongoing discussion about de-dollarization and also policy actions by different countries where they're relying on different currencies to promote bilateral trade. We've seen this in the case of Russia and India, where they've actually relied on use of respective currencies and also the Emirati dirham to procure oil. My question is, are there any kind of proposals towards that end as well, that whether Pakistan and Kazakhstan can explore a similar route, or has that ever come up in bilateral deliberations? Because Pakistan has also procured Russian oil, and it will actually be paying in the Chinese currency. So if you could throw some light on that as well.
In fact, it is not in our agenda. It is not a kind of priority issue for us. We can work with different currencies, including, of course, the US dollar. But for example, within the framework of the Eurasian Economic Union, as you might know, Kazakhstan is a founding member, and the members are Russia, Kazakhstan, Belarus, Kyrgyzstan, and Armenia. We are using our national currencies. So we don't see any problems with this issue. When it comes to our international trade, we are in favor of diversification. we should have as many options as we can. I will see that when it comes to developing cooperation today, the main principle that we should implement whenever, wherever, is diversification. And even when it comes to connectivity between our countries, between Kazakhstan and Pakistan, for example, we should have as many routes to connect our countries as we can. And same approach should be implemented when it comes to currencies that could be, used for our financial transactions, for our trade.
But could there be any disadvantage, for using currencies other than the US dollar for trade? Or is it something that Kazakhstan has already been doing and perhaps sees it as a more safer option?
In fact, all these issues we are discussing on an individual basis, because it's from case to case. It depends. So we are always in favor of creating friendly environment for developing cooperation because in fact Kazakhstan has strategic partnership with the United States, with the European Union, with China, with Russia. We are founding members of the Eurasian Economic Union. So we are trying to develop an individual approach in each and every case.
You've already spoken about connectivity and regional integration at from different levels.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, how does the region of Central Asia factor in, especially with respect to the kind of developments that are already going on in Kazakhstan, especially the Nur Zhoyl project to connect Kazakhstan with different parts of the country, and especially projects coming under CAREC itself, the platform for promoting Central Asian regional economic connectivity. Do you see any developing pathways with Pakistan Zone, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor to promote a more inter-regional connectivity between Central Asia and South Asia?
Nowadays, as many experts say, regional connectivity is the name of the game. And I fully agree with such, I would say, assessments. Our president last year, this year, he stressed many times that for Kazakhstan, developing our transit potential, our export potential is a top priority. In fact, our land for centuries served as a bridge connecting east and west, north and south. So our president announced that we are going today to develop two main international transport corridors, namely so-called Trans-Caspian International Corridor and another one so-called North-South International Corridor. So I'll give you some interesting fact. 10 years ago, in 2013, when President of China, Xi Jinping, visited our country, during his visit to Nazarbayev University, he delivered a lecture when, for the first time ever, he mentioned One Belt, One Road initiative. And it was made on purpose, because China believes that Kazakhstan can play a very crucial role in terms of developing infrastructure, connecting different countries, different regions of the world. And 3 years ago, we finalized construction of the railroad connecting Western China with the European Union. Nowadays, delivery time of the Chinese goods to Europe is 2 weeks, 14 days, in comparison to 40-50 days by sea. So you may see how connectivity important is. So what I'm saying is that Kazakhstan is already a part of One Belt, One Road initiative. Now going back to Pakistan. Pakistan is also an extremely important part of this initiative, and it's well known that CPEC will and is playing a crucial role in terms of developing connectivity. As you might know, recently in the Chinese city called Xi'an, there was a summit of China and Central Asian states, and they adopted a declaration. And I must say that it's a kind of breakthrough, because in this declaration they have mentioned so many key fundamental issues, not only for China and Central Asia, but I believe for the entire region. For example, one chapter was dedicated again to the regional connectivity, and it was clearly stated that China, as well as Central Asian countries, are in favor of developing regional infrastructure. And for example, it was mentioned that we are going to develop connectivity between China, Central Asia, and South Asia. It means that we will be trying to diversify. As I said, we will be trying to establish as many routes, as many options connecting our countries, to give our business communities different, routes, different ways to develop our bilateral, regional, intra-regional cooperation.
Speaking of connecting countries, and now of the fact that we're more interested in connecting people as well, and especially of connecting talent. Could you throw some light? Is Kazakhstan interested in connecting people with backgrounds in tech sector, or perhaps people with varied set of skill sets that are more contemporary? Like I'm sure a lot of audience that tune in are actually from the Gen Z and the millennial generation. What kind of opportunities do such people have in Kazakhstan, especially from Pakistan?
For example, when it comes to the IT sector, in 2017, we have established in our capital Astana International Financial Center. And this platform is similar to the platform which was established in Dubai International Financial Center.
Exactly like a mirror image of the,
yes,
of the same?
Okay. Same approach, same model.
Right.
This platform is operated under the common English law. There is an international court established. And
that is separate from the judicial jurisdiction of the one that takes place or operates in the rest of the country.
It's a kind of, I would say, it's a kind of investment oasis for foreign companies to enjoy. And at this platform, we have established IT regional hub. And we are inviting expert specialists from IT sector, from the entire region, to come.
Including Pakistan?
Of course, definitely including Pakistan. Moreover, Microsoft recently, they announced a decision to establish their regional office at
over
the
there.
IT,
Interesting.
at the IT hub. So this is why Kazakhstan, from the very beginning was not only in favor of developing a bilateral approach, but also regional approach. We clearly understand our responsibility, and we do understand that due to our geopolitical location, Kazakhstan can and should play its role in terms of developing our regional cooperation.
Right.
In general, when it comes to developing interaction between our young generations, I must say that education is another extremely important area. And I can give you some, again, latest developments, what is happening in terms of establishing direct interactions between our universities. Qaid-e-Azam University recently signed an MOU with Kazakh National University, which is #1 university in Kazakhstan. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to develop direct interaction between our universities. The main idea is to elaborate on so-called academic mobility, to give our youngsters opportunity to study in both countries. And inshallah, in August this year, we are going to invite leading universities of Pakistan to visit our country, to develop direct interaction with our universities, and to explore what can be done in terms of, in terms of strengthening ties in this very important area. It's well known that Pakistan is one of the youngest nations in the world. So I do believe that focus on education is the right approach. And moreover, when it comes to our cooperation, when it comes to our region, education is not only about education. It is also about security. If the better our young people educated are, the safer situation is, I would say, this way.
But what about if we have globe-trotting digital nomads from Pakistan interested in exploring, Kazakhstan and its tech sector? Would the embassy be supportive, or would it be facilitating such young talent to, take their expertise to Kazakhstan?
More than welcome. More than welcome. As I said, we can learn a lot from each other's experience. And it's well known again that IT sector is another booming sector in Pakistan. So I think that it could be a mutually beneficial cooperation.
And now let's speak about the trade and commerce of the two countries. What kind of an enabling environment do you think, or measures can Kazakhstan take to promote, such activity from Pakistan? And what are your expectations from Pakistan for kind of promoting a more enabling environment for Kazakh businesses to come and invest in Pakistan? Could you line out some expectations, more tangible ones?
So in general, as I said again, we have to deal with the regional connectivity, because without the connectivity, we cannot simply develop our bilateral trade. If we cannot deliver our goods, it means that it is impossible. It is difficult to develop.
But how about regulation and other stuff that can be more important as well?
Our governments in talks, and hopefully, inshallah, this year we will sign the transit trade agreement.
Mm-hmm.
This agreement will help us to boost our bilateral trade. Then we are also in talks on developing cooperation between our customs administrations. This is another very important area, because in fact, when it comes to our statistics, we have different figures, we have great discrepancy. I'll give you another example. In 2021, according to your data, our bilateral trade was something about $197 million. According to our data, our bilateral trade was $95 million. So can you see such a great discrepancy? And again, the main reason for such issues is that we don't have direct interaction between our relevant authorities. So as soon as we sign this agreement, we will establish direct interaction, direct exchange of data, and both sides will have a clearer picture of our bilateral trade, and then we will be able to identify areas for developing our cooperation. We will be able to identify problems that we have, hurdles that we need to remove. So when it comes to our bilateral trade, when it comes to areas in which we can collaborate, in my opinion, we can definitely develop our cooperation in the pharmaceutical industry. It's well known that pharmaceutical industry is one of the best in the region in Pakistan. Textile industry, agriculture, surgical instruments, sports goods, leather, IT sector, again, construction sector. So there are a lot of avenues for developing.
So you would want these sectors to make investment in Kazakhstan from Pakistan?
Both. In both directions.
Okay.
We can do it in both directions, and of course, the sectors which
what are sorry to interrupt you, Ambassador, but what are similarly competitive industries in Kazakhstan that can make investments in Pakistan? Could you also identify those sectors also?
I can tell you that last year we organized for the first time a delegation of business people from Kazakhstan. They visited Islamabad, Lahore, and Karachi.
And what sectors were they representing?
Different sectors, and such as construction sector,
okay,
for example. Then we had people from education. We had people from agriculture. We had people from textile. So different sectors of our economy.
Mm-hmm.
And one company expressed interest in investing into construction sector in Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need to do to boost our bilateral trade, we need to organize such visits on regular basis. It will help a lot. In terms of raising awareness of our business communities about the opportunities that we have.
But have there been any challenges flagged to you by Kazakh businesses or Pakistani businesses wanting some kind of a headway either in Kazakhstan or either in Pakistan, that they think these are some areas that sort of need to be ironed out to make the way for investments far more smoother for business community to take their activities going forward?
So when I just joined our mission in Islamabad back in 2021, I was, I had some meetings with local business communities, and they identified three main issues that we need to address.
Over there in Kazakhstan? Or
no,
here,
okay. As well as in Kazakhstan, by the way.
All right.
It was, they are similar issues, I would say. The first one is connectivity. So we are going to launch direct flights. The second one is banking channels. In December, during our 11th session of Intergovernmental Joint Commission, Bank of Punjab signed an MOU with the Bank of from Kazakhstan Bank Sanctuary Credit, BCK. Now they are working on establishing so-called Nostra accounts, correspondent accounts, to make our business people's lives easier, to conduct financial transactions through our banks. And the third issue was about visa facilitation regime. So we managed to facilitate our visa regime, and nowadays, if, for example, business people from Pakistan wants to visit Kazakhstan, they just have to send a letter on my name saying that they want to visit our country, and this is the list of our delegation. Within 3 days, they would get their visa.
Interesting. Now, Ambassador, let's come to a more concerning area within the region. And I would like to draw your attention to Afghanistan. We've seen in the case of Afghanistan a brewing humanitarian crisis, but then at the same time, there's also the risk of a resurging threat of terrorism from the country. How does Kazakhstan plan to engage with regional countries, or how is it doing as we speak, or at the moment, including with a country like Pakistan, in trying to manage some of these risks and challenges?
In general, I must say that our region cannot prosper, our region cannot develop unless Afghanistan is stable, and this is a key factor. Everyone understands and everyone acknowledges this very important issue that we need to address today. In fact, Kazakhstan from the very beginning was in favor of so-called non-military solution. Back in 2010, our country, I believe, was one of the first, if not the first country, to adopt a special scholarship program for youngsters from Afghanistan. According to this program, we invited thousands of Afghani youngsters to study at our universities. So the main idea was to change their mindset, to show them that we are the country in the same region, but we have another way of life, and after all, to try to convince them that there are other ways for living, for developing our countries, and at the end of the day, our region. So, and we are still inviting youngsters from Afghanistan to study at our universities, and we do believe that this is very important in terms of developing people-to-people ties, in terms of influencing positively mindset of young generations. So when it comes to our dialogue with current government, the Taliban, our government has sent 3 delegations, and we visited Kabul. Moreover, our embassy didn't leave the country during this situation that took place after the withdrawal of the NATO forces. And we managed to develop, I would say, very good constructive relations with the Taliban. Now our government has 2 main, I would say, goals in terms of developing cooperation with Afghanistan. First one is to restore our economic cooperation, our bilateral trade, and second one is to provide, as we always did, humanitarian assistance to the Afghan people, at least to help them to overcome the severe crisis that they face today. So we believe that this approach is the right one to develop cooperation with the Taliban, in general with Afghanistan, and to convince them that they should be an integral part of regional cooperation.
And in terms of, sorry to scuttle your train of thought, in terms of humanitarian relief, what kind of tangibles is Kazakhstan considering to undertake to provide humanitarian relief in the country?
On regular basis, we deliver our wheat, food, some items for children, for women. So we do it, for so many years, and the Afghan government, they know about this. So this is what we do. So we have to develop regional connectivity, including through Afghanistan. Afghanistan can play a crucial role as a regional transit hub in terms of developing cooperation between Pakistan and Central Asian countries, and it seems to me that we are on the right track, and Afghanistan is already a part of our regional cooperation.
Ambassador, now my last and final question, and more focused on promoting people-to-people ties between Kazakhstan and Pakistan. You've been one such proponent of such ties. Walk us through, what are some of the areas where you think that the ties can be promoted in terms of promoting people-to-people ties? And since certainly culture and arts is one of them, do you see any prospect of exporting or importing, as in your case, entertainment content from Pakistan in Kazakh language, making it more amenable to a rising middle class in your country?
I absolutely agree with you. We should develop cooperation between our media communities. And the main idea, again, to exchange TV programs, TV shows, movies, TV dramas, so on and so forth, to raise awareness of our peoples. The problem is that, I'm sorry for saying that, but it is not only about Kazakhstan, but it is also about other countries in the region and beyond. If you go to the streets and if you ask people about Pakistan, what do you know about Pakistan? I'm afraid that they would mention only 3 issues. The first one, floods. The second one, terroristic attacks on regular basis. And the third one is severe economic situation. That's it. Only bad news. This is why I'm firmly convinced that we have to develop direct interaction between our media communities to deliver more information about Pakistan, to deliver some positive news, a lot of positive news. And whenever I meet with my friends, Kazakhstan, as many other nations in the world, we are great fans of football. And when I say that 70% of all footballs are made in Pakistan, almost no one knows about this fact. In surgical instruments, you are #1. In textile, you are in the top 10 in the world. So there are so many good, positive things that we should disseminate about your beautiful country. After all, manga diplomacy. So there are many things that we can utilize in terms of promoting.
Maybe music and drama diplomacy can be one of them.
Sure, of course, to promote soft image of your beautiful country, and vice versa. If you go to the streets in Islamabad or any other city in Pakistan, and if you ask about Kazakhstan, I can hardly imagine that someone
few would know.
Exactly. So this is why we should develop this interaction between our media communities. We are in talks with the PTV, with our national TV channel. Hopefully our Ministry of Information and your Ministry of Broadcasting this year will sign an MOU to create a legal framework for developing cooperation between our media representatives. So I think this is the way we should develop cooperation, and this is the way which will help us to to deliver this message to millions of people. We can, our embassy, we can organize different events on regular basis, but media, they have, potential, they have capacity to raise awareness of millions of people. So this is why definitely we should use this opportunity.
Ambassador Yerzhan Kistafin, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for this podcast, and we look forward to seeing you again, perhaps in future.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure is all mine.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for staying with us through this conversation with Ambassador Yerzhan Kistafin. Our team works very hard to make this work possible, and it would mean the world to us if you could like and share our content to show your support. And if you'd like to stay informed on upcoming podcasts and other work, please hit the bell icon.